Stop crying or I'll give you something to cry about. You've probably heard this phrase, maybe even said it yourself in a moment of frustration. It seems harmless, right? Just a way to get your child to calm down. But here's what you don't realize. With those 10 words, you just told your child that their emotions don't matter, that expressing feelings is dangerous, and that they can't trust you to keep them safe when they're vulnerable. The words we use with our children aren't just sounds that disappear into the air. They become the foundation of their inner voice, the lens through which they see themselves, and the blueprint for every relationship that they'll have for the rest of their lives. Peggy O'Mara said it perfectly. The way we talk to our children becomes their inner voice. Think about that for a moment. The criticism you speak today becomes the self-doubt they battle at 30. The dismissiveness you show now becomes their inability to advocate for themselves later. But here's what's even more concerning. Most parents have no idea they're doing damage. These phrases slip out automatically, passed down from our own parents, absorbed from culture, or born from our own stress and overwhelm. We don't mean to hurt our children. We're just trying to manage behavior, stop tantrums, or get through the day. Yet research shows that certain common phrases systematically erode the trust between parent and child, creating emotional wounds that can last a lifetime. Today, I'm going to reveal the 10 most damaging things parents say that destroy their children's trust, why each phrase is so harmful, and most importantly, what to say instead. Some of these will surprise you because they sound so normal, so innocuous. But once you understand the hidden messages behind these words, you'll never hear them the same way again. If you're committed to being the parent your child needs and building a relationship based on genuine trust rather than fear or obligation, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We share evidence-based parenting wisdom every week that transforms not just your child's behavior, but the entire dynamic of your family. Trust is the foundation of every healthy parent-child relationship. When children trust their parents, they come to them with problems. They're honest about mistakes. They seek guidance during difficult times, and they develop secure attachment that leads to healthy relationships throughout life. But when trust is broken repeatedly through the words we use, children learn to hide their true selves, lie to avoid punishment, and shut parents out of their inner worlds. The tragedy is that once trust is broken, it's incredibly difficult to rebuild. Each dismissive comment, each broken promise, each invalidating phrase adds another brick in the wall between you and your child. By the time they're teenagers, that wall can feel impenetrable, and parents wonder why their child won't talk to them anymore. Let's dive into the first trust-breaking phrase, "Stop crying or I'll give you something to cry about." This phrase, or variations like, "Big kids don't cry," or "You're fine, stop overreacting," sends a devastating message that emotions are unacceptable, and expressing vulnerability will be met with punishment or dismissal. When you say this, you're teaching your child that they can't trust you with their feelings, that their emotional experiences aren't valid, and that they need to hide their authentic selves to be acceptable to you. The long-term impact is profound. Children who are told to suppress emotions grow into adults with poor emotional regulation, difficulty identifying their own feelings, and a tendency to either explode emotionally or completely shut down. Instead, try this. "I can see you're really upset. It's okay to feel sad and frustrated. I'm here with you." This validates their experience while still being present, teaching them that all emotions are acceptable even when all behaviors aren't. The second phrase that destroys trust is, "because I said so." When children ask why they can't do something or why a rule exists, and we shut them down with this phrase, we're telling them that their questions don't matter, their understanding isn't important, and our authority is based on power rather than reason. This teaches children not to think critically, not to question authority even when it's wrong, and not to trust their own judgment. Children who hear, "because I said so," repeatedly learn that asking questions leads to dismissal, so they stop asking. They become either blindly obedient, which makes them vulnerable to manipulation by others, or they become rebellious, rejecting all authority because it was never explained or justified. Instead, try, "That's a good question." The reason we have this rule is because even a brief explanation shows respect for their developing mind and helps them internalize values rather than just following arbitrary commands. The third trust-breaking phrase is, "You're so lazy," or any other character labels like, "You're so dramatic," "You're too sensitive," or "You're being bad." When we label children with negative character traits, we're not describing a behavior we want to change. We're defining who they are as a person. Children believe what their parents tell them about themselves, and these labels become self-fulfilling prophecies. A child told they're lazy stops trying because that's just who they are. A child told they're too sensitive learns to distrust their own emotional responses. A child told they're bad develops shame about their core identity rather than learning that specific behaviors need to change. These labels break trust because children realize you see them through a negative lens rather than believing in their potential. Instead of labeling the child, describe the behavior and your expectation. "I notice you haven't started your homework yet and it's due tomorrow. What's your plan for getting it done?" Or, "I see you're having big feelings about this. Let's talk about a better way to express frustration than yelling." This separates the behavior from their identity and maintains your belief in who they can become. The fourth phrase that erodes trust is, "Wait until your father gets home," or any variation of using the other parent as the disciplinarian. This phrase breaks trust in multiple ways. First, it tells your child you're not capable of handling the situation yourself, which undermines your authority. Second, it turns the other parent into the bad guy, which damages their relationship. Third, it creates anxiety as the child waits hours for impending punishment. Children need to know that both parents are on the same team and that consequences happen in the moment with the parent who witnessed the behavior. When you defer discipline to someone who wasn't even present, it feels arbitrary and unfair, which breaks their sense that rules are consistent and reasonable. Instead, handle situations yourself in the moment. That behavior isn't acceptable. Here's what needs to happen now. This shows you're capable, consistent, and trustworthy. The fifth trust-breaking phrase is, "I'm disappointed in you." This seems less harsh than anger. So many parents use disappointment as a discipline tool. But expressing disappointment in your child as a person is actually more damaging than anger about a specific behavior. Disappointment communicates that they've failed to meet your expectations of who they should be, which creates shame about their core identity. Children will do almost anything to avoid their parents' disappointment, but when they inevitably fall short because they're imperfect humans, they learn to hide mistakes, lie about problems, and present a false self to maintain your approval. This fundamentally breaks trust because they can't be authentic with you. Instead, express disappointment in the choice, not the child. "I'm disappointed that you chose to lie about your grade. I know you're capable of honesty, and that's what I expect. Let's figure out what happened and how to handle it better." The sixth phrase that destroys trust is, "You're okay, you're fit," when they're clearly not okay or fine. Maybe they fell and are crying, or they're anxious about something, or they're expressing fear about a situation. When we dismiss their experience by telling them how they should feel instead of acknowledging how they actually feel, we teach them not to trust their own perceptions and emotions. This creates adults who second-guess their own feelings, who don't know how to identify what they're experiencing emotionally, and who look to others to tell them how they should feel about their own lives. It breaks trust because children learn that you're more interested in managing their emotions for your own comfort than in truly seeing and validating their experience. Instead, acknowledge reality. "That was a big fall. It makes sense that you're upset and your knee hurts. Let's take care of it together." This validates their experience while still helping them move forward. The seventh trust-breaking phrase is, "Why can't you be more like your sister?" or any comparison to siblings, peers, or other children. Comparisons are devastating because they communicate that your child isn't enough as they are, that your love is conditional on them being different than who they naturally are, and that they're in competition with others for your approval and affection. Children who are constantly compared develop deep insecurity, resentment toward the sibling or peer they're compared to, and a sense that they'll never be good enough no matter what they achieve. This breaks trust because they realize your acceptance is conditional and contingent on measuring up to an external standard. Instead, focus on your child's individual journey. I notice you're struggling with math. What kind of support would help you? Everyone has different strengths and challenges, and we'll work together on yours. This honors their unique path and maintains unconditional acceptance. The 8th phrase that erodes trust is, "If you really loved me, you would." This emotional manipulation breaks trust in the most fundamental way by making your love conditional on their behavior and using guilt to control them. It teaches children that love is transactional, that they're responsible for your emotional state, and that relationships are about manipulation rather than genuine connection. Children who experience this kind of manipulation grow into adults who struggle with people-pleasing, have difficulty setting boundaries, and often end up in unhealthy relationships where they're responsible for managing others' emotions. It breaks trust because love should be unconditional and freely given, not something earned through compliance. Instead, separate the behavior from your relationship. I love you always, no matter what, and I still need you to follow this household rule. Those two things are separate. The 9th trust-breaking phrase is, "I wish I never had kids," or variations like, "You're ruining my life," or "I can't do anything because of you." These phrases, usually said in moments of extreme frustration or stress, are absolutely devastating to children. They communicate that their very existence is a burden, that you regret bringing them into the world, and that they're responsible for your unhappiness. Even if you apologize later or say you didn't mean it, children remember these moments with crystal clarity. They internalize the message that they're unwanted, that they're the cause of your problems, and that their needs are too much. This fundamentally destroys trust because children need to know their parents chose them and want them unconditionally. Instead, when you're overwhelmed, be honest about your feelings without blaming your child. "I'm feeling really stressed and overwhelmed right now. I need a few minutes alone to calm down, and then we'll figure this out together." This models healthy emotional expression without making your child responsible for your emotional state. The 10th and final trust-breaking phrase is, "I promise," when you have no intention or ability to follow through. Parents make casual promises constantly. "I promise we'll go to the park later. I promise we'll get ice cream. I promise I'll be at your game." But when those promises are repeatedly broken, whether because something comes up, we forget, or we never really meant it, children learn that your word means nothing. Trust is built on reliability and consistency. When children can't count on you to keep your word, they stop believing anything you tell them. This becomes particularly dangerous during adolescence when you're trying to communicate about important issues like safety. But your teenager has learned through years of broken promises that what you say and what you do are different things. Instead, only promise what you can realistically deliver, and when circumstances prevent you from keeping a promise, acknowledge it directly. "I know. I promised we'd go to the park, and I'm sorry that something came up and we can't go today. Let's look at the calendar and pick a specific day we'll go instead." Now that we've identified these 10 trust-breaking phrases, let's talk about what to do if you recognize yourself in some or all of these patterns. First, take a breath and release the guilt. Every parent has said things they regret. Awareness is the first step toward change, and the fact that you're watching this video shows you're committed to doing better. Second, understand that repairing trust is possible, but requires consistent effort over time. One apology won't undo years of patterns, but sustained change absolutely can rebuild damaged relationships. Children are remarkably forgiving when they see genuine effort and change from their parents. Third, start by acknowledging past harm. Depending on your child's age, this might sound like, "I've been thinking about some of the ways I've talked to you, and I realize I haven't always been respectful of your feelings. I'm sorry for the times I've dismissed you or said hurtful things. I'm working on doing better." This vulnerability actually strengthens trust by showing your child that adults make mistakes and take responsibility for them. Fourth, commit to catching yourself in the moment. You won't be perfect, but when you notice yourself about to say one of these trust-breaking phrases, pause. Take a breath. Choose different words. When you do slip up and say something hurtful, repair it immediately. "I'm sorry, that came out wrong. What I meant to say was..." This teaches your child that mistakes can be repaired and that you value the relationship enough to make it right. Fifth, fill your relationship with trust-building interactions. For every trust-breaking moment, create multiple trust-building ones. This means following through on commitments, validating emotions regularly, showing up consistently, respecting boundaries, and demonstrating that your love is unconditional. Trust is built through thousands of small positive interactions that prove you're reliable, safe, and truly see them. Sixth, work on your own emotional regulation. Many of these phrases come out when we're stressed, overwhelmed, or triggered by our own childhood experiences. If you find yourself repeating patterns from your own parents that you swore you'd never use, that's a sign you need to do your own healing work. Consider therapy, parenting classes, or support groups that help you process your own emotional baggage so it doesn't spill onto your children. One powerful practice is identifying your triggers. What situations or behaviors from your child tend to make these phrases come out? Is it when they talk back? When they don't listen the first time? When they're emotional in public? Once you identify your triggers, you can prepare alternative responses and create space between stimulus and reaction. Another essential element is self-compassion. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to have bad days where your patience runs out and words come out harshly. This doesn't make you a bad parent. It makes you human. What matters is what you do next. Do you justify and defend your hurtful words? Or do you take responsibility, apologize, and commit to doing better? If you're finding these insights valuable and you want more strategies for building trust-based relationships with your children that last a lifetime, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We share practical, heart-centered parenting wisdom every week that helps you become the parent you always wanted to be. Let's also talk about what trust-building language sounds like in practice. Instead of "stop crying," try "I'm here with you. These feelings are hard." Instead of "because I said so," try "let me explain my reasoning." Instead of character labels, describe behaviors and expectations. Instead of deferring to the other parent, handle situations yourself with calm consistency. Trust-building language validates emotions while maintaining boundaries. It respects your child's perspective while still providing guidance. It separates behavior from identity. It's honest about your own feelings and limits without making your child responsible for them. And most importantly, it communicates unconditional love and acceptance even during difficult moments. Pay attention to your tone as well. The same words can build or break trust depending on how they're delivered. We need to talk about your behavior. Said with warmth and curiosity feels very different than the same words said with anger and disappointment. Children are incredibly attuned to tone, body language, and emotional energy. They know when you're genuinely trying to understand versus when you're just going through the motions. Also consider the timing of important conversations. Trying to have a meaningful discussion when everyone is hungry, tired, or already emotionally activated rarely goes well. Choose moments when you're both calm and have time to really listen to each other. This shows respect for the conversation and for your child's capacity to engage meaningfully. As we wrap up, I want you to understand something profound. The relationship you have with your child today is creating the blueprint for every relationship they'll have in their lifetime. When you build trust through respectful communication, emotional validation, and consistent follow-through, you're teaching them what healthy relationships look like. They'll seek out partners who treat them with respect. They'll have friendships based on genuine connection, and they'll know how to set boundaries and communicate effectively. Conversely, when trust is repeatedly broken through dismissive language, broken promises, and emotional manipulation, you're teaching them that relationships are unsafe, that their needs don't matter, and that love is conditional. They may repeat these patterns in their own relationships or swing to the opposite extreme, struggling with trust issues that prevent genuine intimacy. The words we use matter more than we realize. They don't just manage the moment, they shape a lifetime. Every interaction is an opportunity to either build or erode trust, to show your child they're seen and valued, or that they need to hide their true selves to be acceptable. I know this can feel overwhelming. You might be listening to this and thinking about all the times you've said these phrases, all the ways you've inadvertently hurt your child. Please hear this. Awareness is the beginning of transformation, not the end point for shame. You cannot change what you're not aware of. So the fact that you now see these patterns is actually cause for hope, not despair. Your children don't need perfect parents. They need present parents who are willing to acknowledge mistakes, make repairs, and keep growing. They need parents who prioritize the relationship over being right, who value connection over compliance, and who recognize that discipline means teaching, not punishing. Start implementing these changes today. Choose one of the 10 phrases we discussed and commit to replacing it with trust-building language. Notice when you're tempted to say it, pause, and choose differently. Don't try to change everything at once. Sustainable change happens through small, consistent shifts over time. Also remember that different children need different approaches. Some children are more sensitive to harsh words, while others seem to brush them off. Some need more validation of emotions, while others need more space to process independently. Pay attention to your individual child's needs and temperament, and adjust your communication accordingly. As your children grow, your communication will need to evolve too. The phrases that work with a 5-year-old won't work with a 15-year-old, but the underlying principles remain constant: respect, validation, consistency, and unconditional love. When these are your foundation, the specific words will adapt naturally as your child matures. One final thought. The goal isn't to never make mistakes or to always say the perfect thing. The goal is to create a relationship where mistakes can be acknowledged and repaired, where your child knows that even when you mess up, the relationship is safe and your love is constant. Your children will remember how you made them feel far more than the specific words you said. They'll remember whether they felt safe coming to you with problems, whether their emotions were welcomed or rejected, whether your love felt conditional or unwavering. They'll remember whether you kept your promises and whether your words matched your actions. The trust you build now creates the foundation for your relationship throughout their entire lives. Adult children who maintain close, healthy relationships with their parents almost always point to trust as the cornerstone. They knew they could count on their parents, that they were seen and valued, and that love was never in question even during disagreements. You have the power to create that kind of relationship starting right now, in this moment, with your next interaction. Choose words that build rather than break, that validate rather than dismiss, that connect rather than control. Your children are worth it, and so is the relationship you'll have with them for the rest of your lives.